I'm gonna be real with you. When it comes to my opinions on Hannah Montana, mostly mixed considering I did that marathon 2 years ago. Not to mention, though, only one time I reviewed an episode from the show, and that was as part of my Halloween reviews of last year. I gotta say that the Hannah Montana, the movie, was something I was originally going to review sometime in the near future. I was planning on swapping this movie with something else, but after rewatching bits and pieces of this movie, it's a lot more underrated, but at the same time, I can see onto why people consider this as an overrated film. And if there's anyone who's going to bother on sending hate comments towards Hannah Montana and the fact that I'm enjoying the show that is really hated by so many people, you don't have to instantly remind me about Miley Cyrus or any of the stuff that is happening when it comes to the production of this film and this show, because as far as I'm concerned, I really don't even care at this point. Besides, the whole hate on Hannah Montana thing is really getting redundant, and this show came to an end 10.5 years ago. Besides, I'm mostly aware of Miley Cyrus being mostly a different type of singer in the present day compared to my opinions on her back in 2019. Let me just say right now that my opinions on the stuff I said towards her in my marathon and mostly my review of the Halloween episode, it's easily changed. And considering that Hannah Montana is mostly harmless for being its own thing, and the fact that it raises Miley Cyrus's star power to extreme popularity, I really need to face the fact that nearly any type of media when it comes to teenage stars will always have them become much more popular on the route that they take. And let me just be real right now, this is one of my favorite films when it comes to live-action Disney sitcoms, which isn't saying much considering I didn't watch the Wizards of Waverly Place movie, nor the Sweet Life movie. Yes, this film has so many plot holes to the point that it's difficult to actually overlook those plot holes, but with this being its a live production movie and the fact that this is a lot more different compared to the show, which I have to admit, every time I instantly think about characters acting different compared to their movie counterparts and their sitcom counterparts, I'm pretty sure that they probably need to make a different direction for this movie in order to make the same work out. And if anyone is going to say out of character, blah blah blah, Miley Stewart along with the other characters aren't 100% out of character, to be quite honest. Including Miley. And every time I instantly think of Miley in this film, and it's mostly because of the environment that she's in Tennessee, is well she's probably grew up with when it comes to her early life. Let me make one thing perfectly clear. When the movie is centering around a character that is based off with a real-life actress who has this similar type of slice of life, then I actually admire films like these, which is something I don't usually say when it comes to other films. Yes, I understand that there are other films that did this slice of life formula, not to mention this insulted actress lifestyle in this film much more better, but the thing is, I think that this movie, despite being a lot more subpar to those ideals, can still stand as its own, which is why I think that it works as a Hannah Montana film. The first half of this movie is mainly Miley getting accustomed to where she grew up with after so many years of being a pop star, while the second half is, well, she revealed her identity in front of Travis, even if she didn't mean to when she had two restaurants to go to. Not really two restaurants, but one restaurant and a meeting that is mostly important that is also somewhat of a lunch reunion. So I really think that the running time, regardless of it being the longest, is still a good way to sit through that amount of time. I actually admire Miley's struggles in this movie when it comes to saving the barn and place, which is honestly a lot more similar to the Equestria Girls Legend of Everfree plot, where Glossio is dealing with financial issues with Filthy Witch, but this movie came out before Legend of Everfree. You know, every time I think about this plot device that they kept using so many times before, I realize how limited they use in any other situation that these characters are in. Regardless if it happens in the Crescent Girls, Hannah Montana, or anything, I can easily relate to the struggle of the farms people trying to protect what they enjoy the most and keep it going on for a much longer time before the millionaire buys it out. So I really think that I can easily tolerate this plot device a little bit more compared to other cliche plots that other shows and movies have been doing so many times. If anything, the haters who instantly trash this movie just goes a little too far, whether I consider their opinions on how they hate Miley Cyrus as a person than how she's portrayed in this film. But let's be real, I really think that Disney Channel was a lot more different ever since Hannah Montana became the next sitcom that just changed everything. And every time I instantly think about Disney Channel sitcoms when it comes to Austin and Ally and maybe Jessie, which I did talk about before when it comes to the crossover, I really think that me discussing those shows will probably be at a time where I need to see the issues of those shows that really made Disney Channel as it is right now. Granted, Euphemia the Owl House is really good additions when it comes to them not being live action, but I won't easily blame Hannah Montana with the whole teen sitcoms things on Disney Channel. Granted, Disney Channel is my least channel that I've watched the most when it comes to Cartoon Network and Nickelodeon. And as for its cartoons, I did watch them at a young age, but at the same time, I really didn't consider them as one of my favorite cartoons compared to other networks. So, what is something that I actually enjoy from this movie, just like the sitcom of Hannah Montana? Well, first things first, nearly all the songs are probably the biggest highlights in this entire film. Not because of how much that they're different from one another, but the fact that they actually make this movie probably the best when it comes to the other albums involving Miley Cyrus. Yes, including the recent ones. Granted, Party in the USA, Malibu, and Wrecking Ball when it comes to the lyrics and music is considered much more better than this, but I can still say that with most of the tracks in this, the climb, the hold down, throw down, not to mention the final song, which is A Long Name, I really think that those are really great songs for being exclusive towards this film. You'll Always Find Your Way Back Home is a great way to wrap up everything in this movie. Granted, the whole Hannah reveal in front of everyone, which leads to people forgiving Miley by having her put the wig back on so that she won't have a normal life, is way too similar and mostly a ripoff of the Spider-Man 2 scene, but let's be real. I can understand that whipping off scenes from other movies can be mostly problematic towards people like Eli the Blockbuster Buster, but I still think that they're not really the biggest issues in this entire film, since that people like those don't usually watch these episodes from Hannah Montana like I do. Along with characters like Robbie Wade, Jackson, and Lily don't contribute much in this film when it comes to them being side characters, I really think that this film is still harmless when it comes to newcomers of Hannah Montana. And considering that I actually consider this mostly watchable despite its length, this instantly reminds me of how much I feel when it comes to new movies I haven't seen before, while others just easily just cannot stand when it comes to popularity towards teen stars during the time of this movie's release. Getting into Miley Stewart in this film, I did enjoy her performance, and even though that she doesn't act the way she was when it comes to her sassy attitude in Hannah Montana, the TV series, I still think that she did a good job when it comes to her performance, especially this is a representation of her real life, before she become way more famous. So I can easily tell that the setting of the town that she's in really made me appreciate her character. And I gotta be really honest with you. I think that the reason onto why Miley Cyrus didn't enjoy doing seasons 3 and 4 of Hannah Montana was probably because of the outcome when she finished with everything when it comes to the production of this film. And that's mostly at the fact that Travis, being the love interest towards Miley, really feels like this film is the grand finale of Hannah Montana, which wasn't really the case when this movie was in theaters around the time the third season were airing episodes. It is honestly more convincing that Miley Cyrus is mostly burned out to doing the later seasons every time I instantly see her just not being invested to be Hannah Montana for the majority of it. I mean, sure, you can say that she sometimes enjoy being on the set of seasons 3 and 4, but when you completely look at her performance in this, it really feels like the finale of Hannah Montana, the way she acts when it comes to the production of later seasons. Towards the end of the film, when she's raising money while doing her concert, she stops midway through doing her song, and she cannot live the life that she did towards Travis. So she removed the wig and then sings the climb in front of everyone. And let me just be honest, regardless of what you feel of Miley Cyrus being a great singer or not, you gotta admit that this is actually much more powerful the more you remember it. And I'm saying that because every time I see this, it just never ever gets old. Granted, it's mostly downgraded when it comes to the audience allowing Miley to keep her secret, but I really think that it's still a harmless way to show that Miley can be able to go on with her double life after the events of this movie. The filming of this film took place before the filming of the third season happened, which explains on the size differences of Miley in this movie compared to the third season. Well, she is somewhat taller, and I can easily tell that the budget in the third season has somewhat of a downgrade. I'm not saying that the budget is really terrible, but considering that the questionable budgets that Disney sitcoms usually had in the earlier years, it's mostly difficult to consider that the Hannah Montana had the worst budget when it comes to TV quality. But if you ask me, I can easily mostly accept most of the budgeting issues in future seasons, because for what they did in this movie, they pretty much gave it their all, without focusing on much on the humor, and sometimes there are over-the-top moments in this, which is the humor that you would usually expect from the production of It's a Laugh production, but I really think that this movie did so much when people just instantly just go past the positives and just look towards the negatives. Yes, I will admit that this film has its fans when it comes to Hannah Montana fangirls, but I can easily tell that for fanboys, when they enjoy films and shows like these, it's like the same thing when it comes to us enjoying My Little Pony. Yes, this was before My Little Pony became huge when it comes to Friendship is Magic, but it doesn't mean that I don't consider that Hannah Montana is a show that we should easily demonize, including this movie. Granted, I didn't cover all the elements in this movie, like Robbie Way's relationship with a female interest, he has a romantic relationship with, but considering that this ends up not being canon once we get back to the sitcom series, I really think that this is mostly a way just to have Robbie Way do something. Because then again, the wife of Miley Stewart has passed away in this film, and we don't get to see her other than that one episode. I'm going to convince that they probably want to do something with the other characters in order to have them contributing something in this movie, but at the end of the day, after we move past this movie, it just feels like we're going back to what we used to do when it comes to what Hannah Montana does for a sitcom. Granted, Blue Jeans, Miley's horse, does some kind of contributing something since that he or she did return in the 4th season of this show, and I did cover it, but I really think that they just didn't know what to do with the 4th season, since that Miley Cyrus is mostly burned out of doing Hannah Montana around the time of the 4th season. So no offense, but Blue Jeans in this movie, it's great to see him or her, but I'm gonna be real with you, the fact that he doesn't return up until the 4th season of this, which is heartwarming to see him somehow not pass away with the illness that he got, but it just feels like there could have been more episodes catered towards Miley's relationship with her horse. So my thoughts towards this film, like I said, it's harmless and I consider it a good film for what it is. Even though that this film is mostly dated by today's standards, but for being 12 years old, I can still sit through this film once in a while, whether I'm mostly in the interest of listening to great songs from Hannah Montana. Not to mention The Climb, which is technically a Miley Cyrus song than anything. So I give Hannah Montana the movie a 7.25 out of 10. And if I'm ever going to get back to the show, it will have to be at a time where I had to find an episode that is considered somewhat good enough to be reviewed, because even after doing the marathon 2 years ago, I pretty much cleared everything of what I really want to review from Hannah Montana the most, and it's still surprising that those videos still didn't get much views compared to the Halloween episodes. Like, seriously, did you even look through my playlist if you're that interested to watch me review Hannah Montana reviews? I don't want to do a second marathon. Granted, I could do a week towards Hannah Montana, but for a month, not much.
Let's get this started again. Me and my whole crew, we live with no rules. Let's get this started again. So if you feel like me too, there's only one thing to do. Let's go. Pay down, call the taxi cab. Got a case in the fridge and a bottle at the crib. Let's all get twisted, double fisting, drink up no resisting. Let's get this started again. Let's get this started again. Let's get this